Welcome to the Mission Driven Leader, presented by TaleoConnects.com, where we explore the new, unknown, and innovative themes for work and give people the ability to show up resilient every day. Here are your hosts, former Chief Knowledge Officer of NASA, Ed Hoffman, and partner and Vice President of Portfolio Management at Taleo, Laurel Sim.
Welcome back to the Mission Driven Leader. I was just catching up on my favorite book, The Smart Mission, Ed. I don't know if you've actually read your book, but it's actually quite good.
I was just thankful to be able to write it. Truthfully.
You had two fantastic
every once in a while, I read the book and I said, "Wow, this is interesting." Yeah. So.
Well, you know what? I am just tickled pink that we have such a lovely human coming on our show today, Ed. Laura Dostaler has been playing hockey professionally for many years, and that includes winning the Clarkson Cup. Was it the Clarkson Cup that you won in 2018?
Clarkson, yeah.
Oh, Clarkson. Sorry. Yeah. So just an all-around amazing forward athlete, leader of female sports. She's also the program director for Girls Hockey in Calgary, which is where I live. A great place. Lovely. Come visit anytime. And she's just signed up to head off to Sweden. So we're catching her right before she leaves. Can you imagine?
That's exciting. That really is.
It really is.
I'm always excited, as Laurel knows, when we do, leadership around sports and the challenges. But hockey is the top of the arena to me. There's something about the coolness and the where it's played and all the different aspects. So it's fantastic to have you here, Laurel.
Thank you, Ed and Laurel. I'm so excited. If it wasn't enough to sit with you guys for a while and actually chat about some really cool subjects, that I get Ed's book as a benefit, it was just a win-win all around. So I'm very excited to chat today.
Yeah, well, parts of what we're going to be talking about today really line up both with what you do and what both Ed and I are passionate about, and that's contributing back to the youth and giving them the opportunity to get the schooling, the tools, and the capabilities just to be the best they can be. And one of those things that we're doing right now is Ed runs the future of work at Columbia University, and his students are very engaged in how to think differently, behave differently. And I know that's a big part of what you are trying to accomplish just in the female side of sporting. So I was wondering if you wanted to kind of just give us a general share on that before we get too deep into our questions.
100%. So again, I'm the program director for Girls Hockey Calgary. And if I knew it was a job or a career option when I was a kid, I would have been so excited about it, but I didn't even know it existed. So I kind of came to the job in a roundabout way. I was working retail just at Sport Check in Calgary because that was the one job that was really flexible so that I could play hockey professionally. And then it came up that I had this opportunity. I started coaching, and the Girls Hockey Calgary was hiring a program director. And I'm like, what? I get to make hockey camps for kids? Girls? I'm like, this is the best thing ever. And I'm still in that same stage as 2 years later. And I'm still like, what? This is my job? I get to make fun for kids? So I'm fully enthused about the whole thing. But I really, my big mission is opening people's hearts, ideas, minds so that they can be different, they can be better. Because I see a lot of people out there, they're like, this is just who I am, or I'm not natural, or I'm not this way. And I see it a lot more open than what people perceive it to be. And I love to get kids, especially kids in my camp, past that stage of where they don't think they can do it to they actually did it, and they reflect on that and they have that jump in confidence that I can accomplish these things. Looking back, I didn't think I could, and now I can. And getting them over that hump until they're just self-sufficient and they can just keep on going. That's probably just the most exciting thing in my career, and just finding new ways of opening everyone's brains, getting them past that hump, new ways of looking at things, inspiring them. But that's my biggest, there's no words for it. You just get so happy when you see it, and that kid get that aha moment and that confidence build when they get past something they didn't think they could do.
Well, I'm immediately excited. So I don't know how your kids are like when you're coaching them or working with them. So it shows through just in this conversation. One of the things that I'm quite curious about is how you help educate and work with the parents of the children to allow them to move over those humps, because not everybody will have the brilliant opportunity of working with you, Laura. So what are the things that we could inform the parents, future employers, teachers, that sort of thing that would really help in this area?
I think it's really, and it's cliche, but it's the journey focused in the moment. Because if my goal for the kid or whatever, if they're too focused just on the result, we can get, discouraged, demoralized. We'll shoot ourselves before we even start our mission. But if we focus more on the process itself, so habits and enjoying whatever we're doing in the moment, and that will build to get us the results. So I think that's the biggest thing, is it's kind of that delayed gratification, that marshmallow test where they had kids, and if they could wait and have 2 marshmallows later versus eating 1 marshmallow now. But that comes in our own dialogue and the way we're talking to our kids or talking to our coworkers. Are we just result driven? Are we just talking about the end goal, or are we talking about the process? How can we get closer today? How can I get closer now? What can I do now? What's one little thing I can do? And building those habits as a team, as a person, as a society, that will build the results, because results do matter. But if we're just focused on the result instead of the process and who we can become in the process, I think we get it backwards.
I was waiting for Ed to step in here, because this is like his mantra,
Yeah.
completely. So I will let you jump in, Ed, but my head's whirling right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of the things I'm thinking about you, Laurel, is that you do a couple of things. Laura, you're an athlete, you're a performer, you're designing, like an engineer who's building something, but you're also a leader, and you're an educator, and you're a mentor, and you're helping others. And which do you enjoy more? If you, I mean, I don't know how you view that, but you seem to have a lot of energy and a lot of excitement. I know that leaders often, they like the design part of it, no matter what they do. But the athlete, or the person who's helping others, how do you see the two things?
See, and they're one for me. They are one. My life is my leadership. My life is my piece of work of, like, I'm trying to live my best life and how I want to inspire other people to live and pursue their dreams and passion. So to just be a leader and give up my sport wouldn't be a leader anymore, because I am a leader because I pursue my athletics and I use my athletics to help others. So it's completely combined, and I wouldn't be able to separate it. Because if you take away the leadership aspect, I also wouldn't be into athletics if I didn't think it could also help and inspire people. So they're two completely integrated pieces. So I didn't want to sidestep your question there, but I wouldn't be able to.
No, yeah. I think the best leaders, actually, I think they do combine that. It's something that one grows alongside the other. From your starting point, when did you know that you loved hockey? When did this be something you wanted to do? Was there a point? Was it something you always knew, or is it something that took a while?
That one's a really funny one, because I actually hated hockey, and I don't know if too many people know this, but I hated hockey. Yep, I was about 4 or 5, and my dad would watch hockey instead of play with me. Yeah. So I didn't like hockey. I was like, this is something on the screen, and I didn't really conceive it. It was just a white screen, and the puck moves that way. I don't know if offense, defense. But once I stepped on the ice and I had my first session, and it just came, I was at a rink, and someone said, hey, do you want to try hockey? And my dad's like, okay, let's put her in. Like, no one in my family played hockey. I was the second oldest. He didn't put my older brother in hockey, put me in hockey. So very unusual for the time as well. But once I had that first ice time, the coach, I just loved it. And thank goodness I didn't know I was crap, because I watched a video of myself and I wasn't moving. I wasn't moving at all. I was a little tripod, but I had no clue, and I just loved it. And I had a fun coach, and I just had the best time. And since then, I've just loved hockey, and it's only grown that love for hockey every year since then.
That's a great. So I love that notion of not knowing that you weren't that good allowed you to become that good. Because oftentimes in anything, we talk ourselves out of things, and it's probably it seems like it was something that you were having joy, you were enjoying, and you thought you were good, and it led to that destination. Wow.
And at least I didn't know that it was
Yeah.
bad, because I think that could dissuade me, dissuades a
Yeah.
lot of people. But I love seeing the kids now, even because we have a try hockey program where kids get to try hockey, and we run it every spring. And seeing the kids that are just fully absorbed, and they don't care if they're falling over and that they might look silly. And there's ones that are very conscious socially, and we have to help them however best we can, usually by being around kids that are also beginners. But there's ones out there that they just are in the joy moment, and they don't care that they're not good yet. And it makes me so excited. And I look at them and I talk to them, like, there is no limit to where you can go if you just keep this joy, like, because there's so much you can go with this.
Yeah, I love that. There's both. I'll stop talking in a minute, Laurel, but you've hit on something really important. One of the teams that I worked with at NASA, they had a motto that say, "Be comfortable being ignorant until you are not." I never heard a group, and it's what it was. And when I was talking, he said, "Well, NASA, we tend to get arrogant. We know everything, and when you think you know everything, you can't learn. You can't get better." So we wanted to explore things in a similar. Let's just be honest of what we don't know. We can learn from others easier. We can get better, and it seems like the same kind of a notion. Just being comfortable with who we are, and starting where we're at, and the joy of getting better
Mm-hmm.
is really
Mm-hmm.
so important there. That's got to be tough for you, Laurel, because you always start off at such a high level
Oh,
of excellence and greatness. As
don't
long as
I?
I've known you,
Oh yeah, don't I? Don't
yeah.
I? Well, but it's really interesting that we're touching on this because
Yeah.
the earlier question around, what can you be telling parents and teachers and employers about how to help people on their journey and grow and not get too caught up in the end goal is what I heard you say, Laura, is being in the moment. And the only way we can truly be in the moment is if we actually put our hands up and say, I don't really know what's going on, like I got to listen, I got to pay attention in order to participate, right? And it doesn't matter if last week you were the best at the game or best in the course or whatever it was. If you're truly in the moment, you're just taking it all in and going, okay, okay, I see where we're at now. Am I wrong, Laura? Is that what it means to you for being in the moment?
Being
Or
in the moment and being okay with not being good, being okay with the process, I think would be the core root. Being in the moment, I think, is a very powerful. And when we're in that flow state, everything kind of just works a little bit better, and we get joy from being in that flow state. So that in the moment is very important. But I think even when we kick into our brain and we're like, oh, am I looking silly? Being comfortable with the process of you can't just jump to the top, and there's this formula that you have to do and put the hours in. And you see kids come through that already have mastered this process at a young age, and you can put them in any sport or any math or any class, and they're okay and they accelerate quickly till they hit a point where people start calling them natural. Oh, that kid's just natural at it. That kid's good at it. And there might be a natural tendency, but I think a lot of it is the mindset and what they're set up with their family structure and their beliefs, that they know I can do this, and get success. And a lot of people don't see that behind the scenes. And if we can encourage our kids that it's normal to have to get through this process, or can you reflect on, hey, did you see that you got better from last week because you practiced 7 times this week? And helping them build those structures and reflecting back on the results, I think is the best way we can set them up in the framework to succeed in all areas of life.
wow, that's that's a pretty meaty subject that I think we might have to bring you back for just to talk only about that. Like I feel like there's so much to pull apart on that. Is there and so like that's literally what I want to do, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to like distract us from the only 40 minutes that we have left with you. Um, is there if there was one area that you could really like if you're like, hey, you can't do it all, Laura, like we need you to focus in this one area, what would that be? Where would you be like, hey, if I have to commit my time to one spot, I'm going to do this. What would that look like for you? Because you're busy. Like you've got, like, you are like crazy, like on it. Like you are on it, girl. Yeah.
So just to clarify your question, what I would put my own time into, if I have a certain amount of time and I have one thing I can do, what I'm going to focus on?
Yeah. Yeah. Where are you gonna throw up like all your eggs? Because that's what you told you had to do.
This is my current right now. All my eggs is right now, and this is a temporary stage, but it's in my vision planning and where I want to go. And I think Ed's book is going to be really helpful on this. I feel like the subjects correlate. But if I don't do this piece properly of where do I want to be in a year, where do I want to be in 10 years, what is my exact vision of who I want to become? So again, instead of result focused, because I can't control the outside world, I can't fully control that I'm playing professional with the women's national team or I'm playing here. I can't fully control what someone else decides, but I can control that I'm physically capable and my results are coming to this. I'm feeling this way. I'm acting this way. So who do I want to be would be the core root, and getting that full vision and really fleshing it out as much as I can. Because if I have that piece correct, then I can course correct throughout my year if it's in alignment with that vision. And that vision's always getting tweaked, but if I threw all my eggs into one, and again, it's what I'm currently doing right now in January, it's kind of my reset. What exactly do I want by the end of this year? What exactly do I want in 10 years? Where do I want to be? Who do I want to be? That's where I'm throwing everything into, because without that, I could be led astray and my energies could be going in the wrong direction. And once I have that set in place, now it's execution. And that's where we get into a lot of action. How do I up my nutrition? How do I talk to the right people? How do I make my team? All the other pieces start to fall in place. But that vision is going to keep me in alignment and is going to act as my compass to make sure I'm going in the right direction every day, all the time.
I love that because, I spend so much time talking about the importance of mission and vision. Coming from NASA, one of the things they first learned, success really resonates around both individuals and teams that are clear on where they want to go. And we call the future of work course navigating the future of work. And I always tell the students, don't be so worried about where the world is going, like it's going to happen to you. Think about where you want to navigate to, and then go in your destination. And when you need to change and adjust, you adjust. It doesn't matter if it's going in the right direction. But if you don't have that sense of a destination, then you don't get there. And to me, the best leaders were very clear on where they wanted to go, and then they adapted, as time goes by. So the notion of the book, The Smart Mission, having a sense of vision, I think drives it's the fuel for the launch. And so I love hearing you say that.
I'm so excited for your book.
Absolutely. Well, go ahead, Laura.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and the other, so the key, I think the key to success is having a vision, but also knowing who you are in order to achieve it. We talked a lot last week about brand, and that at the end of the day, all I actually have is my brand and reputation. That's literally all I've got. So I hold it like it's like the most perfect baby every single day, and I live up to it, and I respect it, and I create my own trust in who I am and the decisions I make because of the brand of which I live by. And that brand, it then is like, when people are like, well, what's your goal? I'm happy to tell you my goal because you already know who I am. And so now the two come together, and they're very powerful connecting pieces for success, I think. So I don't know if that connects for you, Laura. And if I were to say, hey, what's your brand? Would you be able to be like, oh, it's so easy?
I really resonate with that. I would actually like you said, I'd like to unpack that. Like that's a very, you could spend more time than we have on each of these subjects. But the brand, I think it almost touches on a little bit of, there's a sports psychologist in Calgary, and I forget her name in this moment, but she says, we're all athletes. We have two things. It's who I am now is enough, and who I want to become, and balancing those two pieces. And I think if we have Ed's vision, right, and then Laurel, your brand, and now, it's almost bringing those two together of this is who I am now, and I am happy with who I am, and I can become better, and I have a goal and a mission. Doesn't mean I'm not content with who I am now. And balancing those two energies, I think, is a tension because they're in contradiction. Am I good now, who I am, or am I going somewhere? And as athletes, and I think as people, having the two really gives us that more rounded life. Because if we're always striving for something and never happy, we're not the best. And if we're just content who we are and we're not going somewhere, we're also not the best. So I really identify with actually combining Ed's vision in the book with Laurel, with your brand piece. And those I think are going to be two very powerful ones.
Maybe Ed and I should write a brand book next, and then we'll just be like, hey, you got to read this after you do that. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, we should probably check it out.
It also sounds so wonderfully like you're living, the story you're living is the life you want to live, if that makes sense. Because sometimes it's not uncommon. Life is very difficult. You see people struggling and they're kind of doing things okay, but they're not really, the story isn't the one they want to be telling. And it seems like when you talk about where you want to be, the notion of unleashing yourself and, going to Sweden and developing people and the balance, it seems like you have a story about yourself that is the kind of life you want to lead. And maybe I'll follow up on that. What would you tell people about what is the story of Laura in terms of where you are right now and where you're going, the journey you have? Are there certain things that really stand out for you?
I love that, actually. I started when I think it was...
It's a strange question, but when I was listening to you, you sound not just grounded, but you seem to be unleashed in terms of you're doing things around dealing with the challenges and opportunities in a way that's a story, but right now it seems to be a good story you're living.
Oh my gosh, I love you calling it unleashed. I think she's unleashed too. I think she's just fierce. Oh,
you guys are awesome.
Yeah.
I like that, the story piece, because it is, and it's also ties into the vision. Like you're writing a story, your own story, and you're dreaming, and you're executing, you're actually living your story. But it started when I was about 12 or 11, and I was contemplating the purpose of life and what is the best way to live your life. This is what I was thinking about at 11 or 12. But I decided that, giving back, contributing, helping others was the core route. This is the best thing. So then my brain at 12 bumped to like, okay, I should be a firefighter or a nurse, and I should save as many lives as possible. That's the equation that this should be going down. And I'm like, well, I don't actually want to be a firefighter or nurse, and I'm not really cut out for that. So kind of tying into Laurel, like who you are. So I came up or agreed with or resonated with that what we love and enjoy the most and gives us the most energy and passion is how I can contribute the most to society. And that piece is the root of my life and my story. And I'm living it as hard and as best as I can because I want it to inspire others. And I had key people in my life that were living a life for others or doing something they didn't enjoy. And I really wish they made the decisions that, I'm actually going to, make hard choices and do something I enjoy more instead of just living this kind of life of drudgery of not things you enjoy. And that I just feel like is the worst way to live a life. Like it's very admirable in some situations where you're stuck or you have to, or you get a job and you're providing for kids. But if there's any way possible, and in the Western world, we have so many options with capitalism, so many that usually there's not a reason where you have to do that. I wish those other people made choices and followed their passions and joy because I think they could give back more and be happier. And that inspired me of like, that's why I have to live my life this way, to say, yes, by my actions of living my life this way, I'm giving you permission to live your life that way. And I can inspire you and show you a way to how to live this life. So that was my core root, and hockey just ended up like I have other passions with writing and reading and leading and helping and contributing, but hockey is my core root, and it just ties into so many things: athletics, being in the moment, the team, like having a mission together to accomplish as a team. And I just pursued that, and it's been a northern light for me through my whole life. And if you take that away, I still would have a northern light of athletics, and there's other things I would cascade to, but hockey itself has been that strong northern light, and I wouldn't be who I am today without it. And I'm so thankful for what it's brought me, who I've become because of hockey. So like the path at the time, I had no idea where it was going to take me, but I trusted the path. I trusted that this is something I enjoy and I'm just following it. And I had tons of obstacles in the way. Like I've been cut from teams. I didn't make the pro league this year. I'm turning those, instead of turning away from hockey, because anything we love can hurt us. So the equivalent of how much I love hockey, it can hurt me just as much. And when I got cut in 2016 from the pro team, Like it hurt. Like I didn't want to go to the rink. I didn't want to play hockey, and it hurt as much as I loved it. But it made me realize, like, no, I got to continue pursuing this and seeing this obstacle as an opportunity. And it kind of goes back to that story, like Ed said, it's a story where you're the character in the story, and there is an end, right? And you're trusting there is an end that is taking you somewhere, and trusting that journey. And there's going to be not the end, but you're going somewhere. And I've always had that trust, and it's always paid back for me that, like, I'm starting to see the results now where I'm hitting a job I really like, and financially I'm starting to be in a better situation, and I can go to Sweden, and all these things are starting to come. But there were stages there where I'm working part-time at SportCheck, and I just got hot for my hockey team, and like things aren't looking so good. So I'm starting to hit a better stride now, but it's just such a cool story that you are in a story, like, and you're trusting you're going to be better at the end, and seeing who you can become is just so exciting. And I love that piece with story for sure.
Well, I think it goes. First off, congratulations for always like taking the next step, because some people simply can't, right? But I do think a lot of it has to do with what you already shared with us, is being in the moment and really looking at it for what it is, and then casting forward. There's a thing that I used to hear out at my farm. I have a little farm here in Alberta. Is your head's gonna hurt until you feel your heart. And so whatever you need to do to make this part of your life happy, you got to do it, because this guy's going to confuse the crap out of you. Your brain is going to confuse the crap out of you until you're really honest with yourself and you just let it happen and just go after it, right? So I think that's what I heard you saying anyways. Yeah. Really great.
I'm also intrigued by, I think a life is a story, and stories that we watch are filled with challenges and problems. And it sounds like you were talking about in 2016 was a tough time, that you got cut from your team, and how do you deal with that? And so how do you approach with the setbacks that are inevitable? Because a lot of the women that you're coaching, a lot of the people that they're going to run into problems, and it's not going to be easy. And so how do you get the mindset or the heart or whatever it is to say, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I want to be doing. I need to get there, and I'm going to continue to do that. What forms the courage, the everyday courage for you to keep going when you get to those kind of setbacks?
I love that.
Was it from your parents? Was it from you're stubborn? Was it from you have confidence? Was it that you're okay with it? Because a lot of people, they walk away from things that they would like because it's not going to be easy. It's not. There are going to be setbacks. So I think that's an important kind of thing that you touched on.
No, I really like that. I would say, honestly, it's mostly because I'm very stubborn and very determined. Which is a strength and a weekness.
But so you should encourage.
I would say it's very strong determination and just pure stubbornness. Yeah. But each of the points, and I'm getting better at it, but the quicker I can see it as an opportunity, the better I get through it. So like in 2016, like it took me 6 months, 8 months before I was even close to seeing it as an opportunity, because I was in the emotions and I was feeling it. And I think for anyone who is going through a hard time, or they got caught, or you're facing an obstacle, accept that there is going to be an emotional reaction, and that's okay. Like it doesn't have to not be emotional. Allow yourself to move through emotions, but it's as soon as possible with your brain, if not your heart. How can this be an opportunity? Because every situation, you don't get a good story without those setbacks, without those obstacles. You don't improve. Every successful person out there, every athlete that's successful has faced those obstacles and wouldn't be who they are today without those obstacles. So they're actually a gift. And as soon as we can flip our mindset of this is happening to me and it's bad, and flipping it to I have the ability to how I respond to this, and the empowerment, and that this is actually an opportunity. I don't see it right now, but this is going to be an opportunity, and there's some silver lining in here. It's something that's going to help me, is very, very powerful. And I'm getting quicker at it now. I can still get hit just as emotionally. Like when I missed the tryout camps for this new pro league, like I was pretty emotion, and I moved very quickly into action. I'm like, okay, let's call managers. Let's call this. What can I do? But I was able to move through it a lot quicker than compared to 2016 because I'd already processed it. I've already gone through this, and I can translate it a little bit quicker, and I start to get that groundwork to move through things quicker. But even with that being said, I look back on, okay, I missed the trial camps. All their things are set. I can't get into this pro league. And I'm like, who was my mistake? I'm like, oh, I didn't get an agent in time. Like that was, I think, is my biggest mistake. Like I'm pretty happy with my training and think I have a lot to contribute to a team, but I don't have an agent to sell myself. And I reached out to people too late, which I wouldn't have known unless I had an agent. So I'm like, okay, I made a mistake. I didn't get an agent. And then I was sitting in December and I'm like, okay, well, did I learn from what just happened? And it's only a month after, but I'm like, I still don't have an agent. So did I actually learn anything? So I got myself an agent and now I'm heading to Sweden. I have opportunities. I'm going to get game footage and I'm going to go back again. But if you don't look for and you don't find the message, the lesson, the opportunity, you won't see it, you won't find it. So if I just went through and I'm like, oh, that sucked, I didn't make the pro league, and then didn't look for like, hey, what did I not learn? And then check up on myself too. Like, I saw that I didn't get an agent. Okay, well, Laura, why do you still not have an agent? Because you're doing the same mistake now. So like it's actually taking that piece and looking at it, what can I be better at? How can I get better? And then activating it and doing it. And the only other thing I'd recommend, I know I'm going on a little bit long here, but for anyone listening and they're also going through a hard time or an obstacle, if we can change again our vision piece. So if my vision piece is to make the pro league, okay, but that's not my actual vision. That's a step along the way. That's a marker. That's a flag that I'm getting the result I want to. Like a team picked me, but there's all these things outside my control. Again, a coach cannot like me. They could already have more players. This player works with this player, political, whatever. Like I can't control that. So if instead of having that vision, if I have the vision by next year or the year after to be the best hockey player Laura Dostaler can be, now I have something no one can take away from me. And that's a lot more empowering and gives you that resilience, which Laurel, you talked about when you did the introduction to this podcast, but that resilience, because that's fully in me. No one can stop me, bar, again, life, and I have a physical large injury. No one can stop me from becoming the best hockey player Laura Dostaler can be. Could I do it faster with another pro team beside me? 100%. But there's ways I can find, there's teams I can build, opportunities I can create that I can be the best hockey player I can be by 2028, whatever date I pick, that no one's going to stop me along that way. And I have a little bit of maybe a branding, Laurel, unstoppable, but it's choosing those right visions that isn't in other people's control. It's in yours. And then that way these setbacks are just setbacks instead of the end of the road. And now we have a story instead of a story ending. We can just keep on going because we know what we can do and where we're going.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. Laura Unleashed.
Yeah, that's
Laura
right.
Unleashed.
That's right. We're going to set up your brand for you by the end of this episode. Not that you need our help, because you're doing okay on your own.
You have it anyway.
But you can have whatever you want from us. So how we can ever contribute. And I just want to say bravo that in fact a setback, which is what a lot of people call them, I call them a learning. And because you have these throughout the course of projects and programs, and in fact, what we do in projects is we say, and we do a retrospect, and we say, hey, like we could have done this differently. We got a lot of project left. How are we going to adjust so that we're more nimble, more effective in our next hiccup like this, where it doesn't show up with the same kind of combustion that it did the first time around? And so yeah, a setback is a learning, and I love that you're taking it for what it is. And those are the true people, the true leaders of the world, the true coaches of the world that actually take that as the positive opportunity of which it really is. So
I think it's also
fantastic.
I think it's an important thing, because I think a lot of people, I don't know if it's raised, but they expect that if they're good at something, it's going to go smooth and easy. And the people, and I saw this at NASA over and over again, the people who went on to the places they want, they failed. They had some really bad days. I knew them, a generation for 30 years. But they weren't waiting. There were some folks I would say, you're waiting for the organization to take care of you. And it's like you're waiting at a bus stop where the bus isn't coming anymore. Mm-hmm. You have to do something. You have to try something different. And you're talking about this kind of a drivenness, a healthy stubbornness, a sense of this is important, so I'm going to take action. And it's, I think that's one of the most important things that we have to teach people. We have to teach our children that it is not going to go however you expect it. It's not going to go the way you think it's going to go. There are going to be problems. There are going to be setbacks. There's going to be pain. And that's okay. You embrace that and you make that part of your journey in going forward. It's that resilience that leads to leadership and the outcome.
And I would love for us to talk a little bit more about resiliency, because I think there's a few other things that Laura would like to touch on as well about just her future plans. But before that, we're going to just hop to commercial break. Laura, when we get back, I'm going to ask you the really tough question of if you could play hockey anywhere, where would it be? Because Ed's answer is for the Edmonton Oilers, because we helped him get his team to a Stanley Cup way back in the day. And so he's like, I probably needed to get it from ground up to figure it out, but cannot wait for your answer. We'll be right back.
We'll get back to the rest of the episode in just a moment. But first, a word from our presenting sponsor, TaleoConnects.com. As a manager, you know how important it is to solve issues right the first time. If you don't, you risk wasting precious time, money, and resources on things that could make the problem even worse. That is why at Taleo, we start by getting to the root cause of your specific problem, so that together, we can implement the solution that gets you the results you are looking for the first time. Taleo's unique approach to management consulting and resourcing is focused on building a community of experts that work together to help clients solve complex problems and find success in their businesses. We work collaboratively with you to implement the solution that will solve the root cause of your problem, not just the symptoms of that problem. From management consulting and project management to staff augmentation and resource recruitment, Taleo's trusted team can help you take your organization to the next level. If you're interested in learning more about how Taleo can help you overcome your organization's obstacles and take your business to the next level, visit TaleoConnects.com today.
Welcome back to the Mission Driven Leader. Ed, my Oiler fan, I know you used to be a Rangers fan, but now you're an Oilers fan. I know you're burning to understand what Laura's answer is. If she could play hockey anywhere, where would it be?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like it's a cliche, easy one. It'd be for Team Canada, because that's the dream for any female athlete, I think, for hockey specific. And I did, when I was a kid, I did want to play for the Edmonton Oilers. Like, before I knew girls didn't play in the NHL, like, that was my team, and I wanted to play for the Oilers. But yeah, I would say,
fantastic.
That's great.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I like the Oilers, but I love Team Canada, and I see that in your future, Laura. There's no two ways about it.
So, Laurel, what is your favorite? I know the Edmonton Oilers, even though you live in Calgary, is your favorite hockey team. But what's your favorite women's hockey team?
Well, I'm
keeping in mind that Laura is here.
Well, that's tricky, Ed. I was gonna say Montreal, like watching the new league come to life. The Montreal fans actually kind of really get you into the spirit of their team. So I'm actually, and never in a million years would have thought I'd be a Montreal fan in hockey, but I am today. Yeah.
I took in games at Montreal and on the East Coast, Montreal, Canada, Ottawa. I have to say that maybe it was the night, there was something incredibly special about the Toronto fans. It almost seemed to be in their blood. Maybe it was the event or whatever. But Laura, where are you going to be playing? Because that's the team I will be rooting for.
Currently, I'm going to be playing for AIK in Sweden. And then after that,
AIK Sweden.
I will take any pro team that wants me.
Okay. Well,
you've got
if they want me as a fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
We bring Ed and we bring Laurel with this brand. We are packing.
Yes.
You bring NASA.
We're packing
Laurel
NASA.
will be there for you.
I'll send this to agent.
Yeah.
Send
Absolutely.
it to teams.
Seems to make good sense
Definitely.
to me. Yeah. One of the thing about resiliency is a lot of people are like, oh, you're so resilient, but it I've already kind of shared this in the past, that resiliency isn't about how you came out of it. It's how you worked through it to then show up after it. Or that's my opinion of resiliency. It's, it doesn't just show up after you've been through hell and gone. It's like how you survived in the hell
Mm-hmm.
that allowed you to become resilient and become a different person, and strengthen that. And and just from your stories, it feels to me like you've really embraced resiliency for what it truly is, and showing up, and being aware, and making adjustments, and being okay with adversity. So what are the younger people, and the young people that you're educating and informing, they don't necessarily know the term resiliency, right? Like, oh, you're so resilient. And they'll be like, can you just give me the puck? I don't know what that means, right? So I'm curious, is there a different language to get the youth to hear you talk about what you're seeing in them? Like, is there something that we should be doing a little bit differently in how we have those conversations?
I think resilience, and I think vice versa, you could call courage. And I think I would say they're almost the same in this context. And I think courage, I think kids can identify that one a little bit easier versus resilience. Resilience is almost the after the fact, like you said. People are like, oh, you're so resilient, but it was the during. Whereas courage, we know that from stories and books and characters of in the moment of doing something we're uncomfortable or we're not liking, or vice versa, and going through it. And people typically don't say they're courageous in the moment, but afterwards they're like, okay, you were courageous in that moment, you went through it. So that encouraging to be courageous, because working through fear, working through things that are uncomfortable, and that getting people through that pivot piece, and we're accepting that I don't like it. I don't like what's around me or the situation I am, but I can still be strong, and I still be courageous and show others how to go through this that come past and after me. So courage would be a word that I would also use to describe
Wow.
resilience. So that would be my take on it.
I don't know how Ed feels about that, but I am like seeing courage conversations, right? Like, I'm actually seeing that, and how I can influence people differently by using that word. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
I
Ed, what are your
actually
thoughts?
stole that from, well, not fully stole it, but Blair Turnbull. She's a Canadian Team Canada Olympian. She lives in Calgary as well, and we had her out speaking to our kids. And they're like, if there's one word to sum up like who you are, what you did in your career, what is it? One of our
Mm.
kids brought this question to the table, which I was really proud of the kids, because we told them to bring a question, and this was one of the really intelligent ones, or very thoughtful ones, I should say. They're all intelligent. Um, but Blair said courage. And she says, through my whole career, I came through courage, believing that I could do this, and going through obstacles and the points where I didn't think. And this is an Olympian who's already achieved what these kids could only dream of achieving at this point, saying that courage was the key piece of her career. And I think thinking about that as well, it's getting uncomfortable and having big dreams. So like only in the last year or two have I accepted that I do have bigger dreams. Whereas before I had them, but I never verbalized them, because to verbalize them and to
Mm.
start to build a team and trying to do it, like you could disappoint people. And for me, that was the having the courage to get an agent, build my nutritionist, build my personal trainer, and say, hey, this is my mission. This is what I'm doing. The courage to share my mission and bring people along on the journey with me. For me, that was Blair inspired me to have courage, because I didn't want to disappoint anyone. Like, what if I don't accomplish that? What if I don't do this? What if I let them down? And letting down other people, in that I don't like that feeling. So I had to have the courage to take them along this journey and switching my dial of where I was going. Because I didn't want to be like, hey, I'm going to make the Olympic team, because Olympic team doesn't look at people like me who are a little bit older. Like, it's not a standard thing. I still believe if you're good enough, people will look at you. But overall, it's not a very realistic, probable piece for me in my future right now. But if I go, I'm going to be the best hockey player I can be in 2 years, and I want to make the pro league, or I want to make this, now I had something I could share with my nutritionist, again, my trainer, getting an agent, and I could start to build my team, but not have that conflict in my heart that I might let them down, because my mission and their missions are the same. As I'm going to be the very best I can be in 2 years. I'm going to be the very best by this date. I'm going to see who I can become by this date. So that courage piece and acknowledging that I had big dreams and big goals was a big one for me, because I didn't want to let people down around me and say, oh, I have this big dream, and then not actually be able to put the rubber to the pavement and actually back those statements up or those dreams up.
I like that a lot. We call this the mission driven leader. We could have called it the courageous leader.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
they're so connected there. I wanted to ask you about the Clarkson Cup from the standpoint of one of the things, really, since I was a kid, that always interested me is how do people come together to form these things called teams or organizations and figure out a way to win? There's so many things always working. There's competition. There's ego. There's so many different things. What was it like to be one of the individuals part of this championship team that was able to win the cup? What goes into being that good? It can't be just talent. It must be something about coming together as a group of women. And I don't know, how do you win the Clarkson Cup? What were the ingredients for your teammates and for your team that led to that, do you think?
I actually got to see the Clarkson Cup one twice because the year I got cut, they won the Clarkson Cup as well. 2016, and it was a very painful year, and I had a great opportunity though. Like the coaches are like, hey, they cut you. I remember being cut. They're like, but we still want to keep you, with the team, helping out on the ice, stuff like that. So I was kind of an on ice helper, and to be honest, there's way more people watching it all the time. Very painful, but I was part of it. So I actually went with the team. I got to see them, and I saw a fragmented team. Everyone acting kind of individually, kind of attacking each other, not cohesive, come together because of key individuals leading at the right moment at the right time. So we had a bit of a fragment team, lost some games, faced some obstacles. Again, obstacles are important for teams as much as they are for individuals and how they react to them. And some key leaders stepped up and brought the team together, had some bonding moments, created things like it wasn't in the schedule. They created these moments to bond the team back again and came out for the championship a completely different team. We also had Gina Kingsbury, our general manager, who's now the general manager for the Toronto Pro team, do an exercise with us before we went into that Clarkson. This is, again, the 2016. And she said, what would it mean to you if you won the Clarkson Cup? And as a group, it was the night before, we all went around and we said, what do it mean to us? And again, they took me with them as a team. Again, hurt a ton, but super exciting to be with the team. Like this complete contradicting emotions going on for me. Like pain, but like, oh, I'm happy it's my team and they're winning, and like both. But I said, what would it mean to you? And so as a group, and they've already gone through the bonding, we had obstacles, they had bonding, their leaders brought them together. And then as a group, everyone said what it would mean to them. And I think that really clarified, again, the mission for the day after when we played a game because it was just one game. It wasn't a 3-game series. It was just one game for the Clarkson Cup. But it clarified and brought everyone of like what we're doing it for, and not just for ourselves. Because I don't think that's enough to motivate us a lot of the time. But this is a teammate sitting next to me. I know what it means to her if she wins this. I know what it means to the coach. I know what like, everyone around in the room, instead of just us focused, because sometimes we can get lost in that. But it was a whole group. And I think that was a very, very powerful moment. And then when in the 2019, kind of similar, but we had a interesting start. We had a coach. They left for personal reasons partway through the season. There was this kind of shift. And then we had a new coach who was just normally the assistant coach. And I see the girls come together, I think, because of the coaching change. And I think it's a little bit more prominent in women's sport than men, where you can join teams where it's very fragmented. I've played boys and I've played girls, and it has a different feel, and vice versa. I think when women do come together, it's like a powerhouse, like good luck, get out of the way. It's just going to crush you. But I think it's also a lot to create that powerhouse because we can fragment as a team. And I saw everyone come together because of the coaching change. I saw a strong group come together. And again, it was almost a team-led win, I think, in that moment for the win again. But those are my two kind of behind-the-scenes kind of view.
And just to follow, because this to me is fascinating, because I've seen teams, I follow sports, I've seen teams that they have on everything the most talented group. And not only do that, they not exceed, that they just vote. And you see other teams that they're just not as good as others, but they're unstoppable. And you said something that in these situations, key leaders step up and they bring the leader together. Are they key leaders because they're the most talented or because they're the most inspiring? And how do you bring people? Is it just we sit down and we talk? What does that look like? If you can share just some of that when leaders say, "Hey, we're I'm sure it's not as simple as we're going to bond.
You guys are bonding.
There's some connection that this is important to all of us. This is a goal that transitions, and we're going to cover each other. But any light on how that happens?
I think specifically in hockey, because we're a group of around 20 to 25 girls, I think size always influences this team piece. But usually our leaders are the most talented. But the true leaders aren't just the talented ones. They're also the ones that makes everyone feel valued. And I think those are the most powerful leaders. And I think Howie Draper said it of like, a leader isn't what they are, but it's what they can give. But that piece of that they make everyone feel like they're seen and heard and valued, and that they can bring everyone together. I think that's the key piece with a leader, specifically for hockey with the group of 25. Because again, we can all split. And if we have multiple strong leaders, then we can bring it into a cohesion. And I think them planning any sort of event, any sort of team event where you have to be in close proximity, people tend to bond. And I saw this in retail as well. As long as there is a shared experience and we're doing this together and we're shared mission to do it together, and people aren't allowed to skip out, like, no, we're all doing it together, humans naturally bond. And I think it's just being close and having something that you're doing together. And that's what I saw the leaders use and utilize is we're doing this thing, and maybe it's a party, maybe it's a bus ride, maybe it's this, but it's everyone's together, everyone's invited, everyone's coming to it, and everyone bought into it. So they weren't just unengaged, they were engaged. And I think that is the magic glue to go into anything. And I think for work, teams, bonding, if we can bring people together in some sort of activity, shared time together, doing something that everyone hopefully enjoys, that's that glue that we can then take into anything else.
That's wonderful. That's one of the best explanations I've heard of leadership of a team.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, we're starting to run out of time, so there's only room left for two
Already?
questions.
We just got here.
I know, Ed, but you monopolize all of the good questions, and then that's where we end. It's like so brilliant. But one of the things, Laura, that you had shared with us prior to this podcast was you call it our human superpower. And I really enjoy the visual that creates. And as we've already told you, we love to hear stories because stories create the opportunity for what can be. And I was curious if you would be willing to share your story of our human superpower and what that really means to you and potentially to all those around you.
Oh, I love this one. What an exciting thing to go down. Human superpower. Like, we can literally change our brain connections, our neurons. We can change, like, just our thought can prompt us to go do something, and we eat different, we exercise different. Like, we can change ourselves. Like, if that's not a crazy human superpower, I don't know what is. Yeah. I can change the wiring of my brain, like physically. So like my brain is changing itself, or I can choose to eat different. My brain composition is different. Like, it's just, it blows my brain that we have this superpower and we don't always utilize it because we think we are just what we are. But if we start to tap into, again, if you eat different, like if you have a goal or you want to be a different person and you eat different religiously for a month or 2 months, you're going to see a different person. If you put different thoughts and programming, affirmations into your brain, you're going to start thinking differently. You're going to have different neurons in your brain. Like, it just blows my mind, especially with personal training. I can really see that one as the result. The personal training, I can change my body and my physique. Like, it's just crazy what we can accomplish. And we look at the people at the end result, like, oh, you're just smart, or you're just strong, or what, you're just what is. Like, no, they actively created this. They weren't born at 4 years old with the body of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, they created this, which is just, it's crazy. So that's the superpower piece. But for my own story on that, I would say that I'm normally would identify like, oh, I'm not the fastest. I'm not the quickest response, right? I feel a little bit slow. And between two things, so my personal trainer and then changing my thought and my knowledge, I realized the personal training, I did a ton of jumping, I'm changing my physique instead of a slow runner. Like, I used to love running, like hour long, 2 hours. I love that. Got a personal trainer. She's like, no more running. She didn't actually say that, but no more running in the, that's not good for hockey. We got to be sprinter. But all the jumping and the explosive, like my whole physique, I can see it in my body change. Like I'm starting to have a sprint quad instead of this power skating giant quad. Like I'm starting to get the sprint physique, which makes me so excited because it's this thing I used to think is something, not something I can change. It's not who I am, or I'm just slower or whatever it is. So my physique is changing, and I felt it after it was actually COVID, and I did all these burpees because that's all I could do at home. And I felt explosive all of a sudden. And I'm like, oh, like you can change your muscles. It was so exciting. And then the other piece, I was watching footage and I'm like, okay, something's wrong with my skating. I'm watching footage, all this stuff. And I realized I was taking the wrong stride. And I'm like, I know I've changed my physique. I'm feeling fast. I know I'm as fast as these other people. And I'm watching the two, and I was picking the wrong stride. So what was wrong? And I knew something was wrong. I'm very visual, and I was watching, and I'm like, something's wrong. And I've asked power skating coach. They didn't know what it was. I wasn't using a crossover step, and I was using a stride. And once I watch these really strong players like Connor McDavid, and when they look quick, most often you're going to notice they're in that crossover step, not in a stride. There are a couple players that can be very fast in their stride, but overall, when you see it quick, it's in a crossover step, not an open stride. And as soon as I switched that I used more crossover steps, especially in a small area, I'm like, okay, now I have the fast look that I always thought I couldn't do because I was slower. But it was knowledge, knowing more about my sport, watching videos, knowing more about it, and then physical, and combining those two and completely changing an identity piece of like, oh, I'm just not as fast, or I'm not. And now I'm like, I'm fast, right? Like I'm actually fast, but it took a lot of work behind that. And someone else might look at me now and be like, oh, she's always fast. You're like, well, no, like actually, let me tell you a story. You can change yourself. So that's my personal story on the human superpower. But like, it's so exciting, the whole concept. At every camp I ever do, I make all the parents go to nutrition, because this is the base. You are what you eat to a certain extent. But if you want to feel good, and I want your kids to come out stronger and faster, I need you to feed them the food at home so we can get the results. So it's just mandatory. Any camp I do, you're going to get a nutrition session, because it's just so essential for all of life.
That's wonderful. So we are all about possibilities.
Yeah, we really are, and I can't tell you how disappointed I am that we're coming to the end of it when we're talking about an area that I absolutely truly believe in, which is if you put people in an environment that's negative, they'll eventually become negative, because everybody there is there like that. But if you put people in a positive environment and they are naturally negative, they will evolve, right? And that's the human superpower, is that we will evolve to our environment if we're put in the right environment. Darn it, we're running out
living
of time.
things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if a plant needs light, it goes towards the light.
Yeah.
Fish need, I mean, so it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, that you articulated absolutely right. It doesn't happen. You're not just speedy. You're not just an excellent hockey player because you woke up and that was it. It's because of the effort, the energy, overcoming adversity, and the commitment,
and quite frankly,
also the fun you clearly have.
Yeah, and quite frankly, telling your story of, I want to be faster. Yeah. The second you start to tell your story, other people are going to be listening, and they're going to be like, hey, I have a nutritionist for you. Mm-hmm. Hey, I would love to watch your footage with you. It's a game changer. If only we had the courage. I love your new word. If we had the courage to tell our story consistently, so that others can help us turn it into something great, right? It's all too much fun, way too much fun. Yeah. But unfortunately, we're coming to the end, so we have one last question for you, Laura. Speaking of superpowers, what do you believe your personal superpower is that you give to your students, that you give to your coaches, that you give to your sporting colleagues? What is that? What's your superpower?
Oh, my superpower. I would have to say it's just my energy and enthusiasm and love of the game, sharing the game, playing it. I think, again, that's the root that's driven my whole life, and sharing that is, I think, the best thing I can share with other people, and hopefully that inspires them and they can get some energy off of that. And as a leader, creating those good environments for them to go into, but energy and enthusiasm, I think we all can use more energy.
Absolutely. Yeah, you convey that, man. I'm feeling very energized.
Yeah,
I really do.
I'm actually almost worn out from all of the fantastic energy.
No. I feel great to keep going.
That's how fantastic you are. I think you're bang on.
I want to get a signed Laura Dostaler puck.
Hey,
At a certain
I
point
will
in
for
time.
sure trade for the book. That is a great trade.
I'll pull it right on the. I'll put it right on the
I'd be
wall.
honored.
Yeah. We deserve
Absolutely.
that.
No, you bring so much energy, positivity, and the reality that it takes hard work to do anything, and the fact that you're giving to young women, to girls, to people, is such a wonderful message. Hopefully you have a long career in terms of playing hockey, but I can imagine you're going to be an incredible coach as you move forward.
Yeah, well, you're already an incredible coach, really. At the end of the day, how we evaluate it, but we see greatness from you for a long time, I think, is the end message there, and we're excited to have you come back and continue to tell your story as you evolve. It's there's no end in sight for you, ma'am. Woo, hot stuff. Yeah. We loved having you, Laura. Thank you so much for being on our show, The Mission Driven Leader. And we wish you nothing but success in Sweden and once you come back here to kick butt even more. So do take care.
Thank you, Laura and Ed. Really enjoyed it.
Bye for now.
Real pleasure. Thank you, Laura.
Thanks for listening to the Mission Driven Leader podcast presented by TaleoConnects.com. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review wherever you listen to the show.